Hey, Bruce. Thanks for doing this today. Just a couple questions for you. Just one, how's the team feeling? And two, Frank said a few weeks ago that point guard play has kind of been an issue. There were obviously some concerns from the game the other night. Just what, in your mind, has been the biggest problem with that point guard spot?
I just think it's just consistency. Obviously, given the fact we've not enough game experience, moving 7 footers into the starting lineup. Jermaine was our primary ball handler. We moved seventh in the lineup. The first game back, that Florida A&M, the game Keyshawn was out. And so we're just trying to give them more reps and more game reps, which just basically help out with just the inconsistency right now.
Eric Boynton?
Yeah, hi. Obviously, in this year of COVID, what has been the biggest difference as far as home court advantage? Obviously, you point to the far fewer fans in the stands, but is there still a great home court advantage when you've got no matter who's playing at home because of the non-travel, you're used to the gym and the rims, or is home court advantage been really, really minimized this year?
Yeah, I think home court advantage has been minimized. I mean, obviously, when you play at different arenas, playing in different arenas, they have, their baskets, getting used to their baskets. Obviously, like different schools, have different basketballs. So that's an advantage that you have to adjust to. But as far as crowd and all that, I don't see no real true advantage. I guess the advantage is the travel. Less travel in the air, spending time in the air, and hotels and all that. That's the only advantage that playing at home is you don't have to travel.
Mike Uva?
Hey, Bruce, outside of stamina, not to make excuses, but what has been one of the biggest challenges in terms of just trying to get the players back into the swing of things? And, how can being able to have a game against LSU the other night help you guys as you prepare to head over to Missouri now?
Yeah, practice reps, practice reps, having live bodies, having enough guys to do 5-on-5 drills, go up and down. With us having so many guys out and not knowing who will be in practice, those practice reps are minimized because you don't know who's practicing and who's playing. So that it's just practice reps is probably the answer to that question.
Colin?
Yeah, Bruce, do you expect to have Jalen and Alonzo for this game? And kind of has Chuck Martin been in practice at all with you guys?
Chuck has not been in practice yet. I don't know the update and the status on Jalen and Zoe. Once again, Colin, I wish I could tell you, but I don't know the status of Jalen and Zoe because of the COVID. I don't know what day they are into their process. So even if they, even when they're in practice, I don't know if this is the 25%, this is the 50%, this is, I don't know where they at. So, until we play the game, I don't know what date they are, what day they're in the process.
You don't anticipate them traveling today, do you?
Who is that?
Jalen and Zoe.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know.
Next up is John Del Bianco.
Bruce, what do you make of what you saw from Wildens in Baton Rouge and really going back to the Texas A&M game, just the development and how comfortable he looks out there as a second-year player?
He's growing, and as much as he get to play in games gives him that experience, but he's starting to, figure out growing to his body, figure out where he can get his shots from, figure out how he can be effective on both ends on the floor. Proud of his development. He's come a long way from, a freshman to the freshman year to the sophomore year transition. You always look and see, does that kid make that jump? And you can see him making strides to that jump of turning himself into a really elite player at his position in the league.
And if I could follow up real quick, what was it like to have Frank back in the building and at practice today? Does that lift the guys up a little bit more, or was it business?
Yeah, it's everything. It's everything. His voice, his leadership, his command. When you're used to something, for your whole basketball career, and you're used to being coached a certain way, when he's back, it brings that spirit and that uplifting back. So his voice and his attention to detail, Frank sees everything, and So those guys were excited to have him back.
Dick?
After watching the tapes of Missouri, what do you see in Missouri and how will the Gamecocks match up with them physically?
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Missouri and, I always look at Missouri and I look at what stands out to me the most is their experience. They got guys that have been in the league. They're returning their top 9 guys, so their guys have been in the wars and they represent what you would, they don't look, they don't pass, I guess what you say, the eyeball test when it comes to, high level or five-star players, but they got 3-4 year guys that's been in the program and they look like and that's why they rank, top 25 in the country because of their experience and their depth.
Michael Lanana?
Hey, Bruce, I know last week in the middle of the week, obviously you had to sort of change the way you guys do things as a coaching staff. What has it been like preparing for this game? Obviously kind of a quick turnaround. What has your role been like, and just getting Frank back to how has that sort of affected things this week?
Well, yesterday, we came back long trip. We got back at about 2 a.m, whatever you may have it, and we had COVID test early Sunday morning, and then it's like it was like a mini NBA schedule. It was just like a quick turnaround. So it wasn't much we could do in practice as far as a lot of like combat and collision, but it was more attention to detail. Let's get some shots up. Let's watch some film. Let's get some familiarity. And then today in practice, we revved it up to get prepared for them.
Mitch?
Yeah, Bruce, that's what I was going to ask was just, about how you guys having to, obviously be on the road in Louisiana, then turn around and then have to go to Missouri. For the kids, how have they been able to kind of just adapt to not only, this schedule being abbreviated or being altered, but also being able to just bounce back from that type of tough loss and get ready for this one with another opportunity?
Right. I mean, and this is Mitch is one of these trips like, at LSU and then at Missouri, two of the more further, trips as far as geographically. But, it's quick turnaround. We got a couple more of these as the season continues. So it's all about, moving past LSU. And so yesterday, we watched some clips of LSU and we buried that, and we buried those emotions and we put that behind us and we focused our energy from the moment we started watching Missouri film. We focused our energy on how do we prepare our minds and our bodies to give ourselves a chance to win at Missouri.
All right, we'll take 3 more, starting with Phil and then Colin and then Dave. Phil, whenever you're ready.
Okay, Bruce. You and Frank have a chance to talk about your performance in running the team. What kind of grade did he give you? What kind of review did you get from him?
No, we didn't talk about it. It was, obviously nobody, I didn't take over to get a grade. I took over because we were in these circumstances and my job was to help us, put our group out on the floor and give us a chance to win. And we definitely had a chance to win. We led for about 33 minutes of that game. And so, when I talked to Frank, we spoke briefly of, some of the things that, some of the adjustments we could have made and some things that we did right and wrong in the game. And his thought process is like, let's move forward. I'll be back Monday and let's figure out how we beat Missouri.
Colin?
Touched on the point guard spot, but I want to kind of follow up on that. And when Keyshawn Bryant's in the game for you, what does he give you? And with 7th struggling a little bit, maybe against LSU, do you maybe look to slide Key into that role and maybe move Jermaine back to that point guard spot with 7th coming off the bench?
Yeah, that's a Frank Martin question, Colin. Right now, as we speak, I can only based on what I went with at LSU, and that was 7th at the point. 7 have been playing the point since we played at Florida A&M, and so I don't know what roster adjustments will be made, but that will be up to Frank, and that's his decision as he takes back over his team.
What does Keyshawn give you? I know he had 26 points against LSU. When he's in the lineup, what do you get with him in there?
I mean, you get energy, and when Keyshawn is playing at the best of his abilities, he can protect the rim, he can play in transition. The other night at LSU, he made some perimeter shots, which makes his game a little more lethal, if that's a word. He brings that energy, that spark. You know, obviously when we need a basket, or he back cuts, he gets an offensive rebound, and his length gives us opportunity to run in transition.
And Dave?
We'll go ahead and make lethal a word just for today.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
Just looking back at the tape with those point guard turnovers, was that just LSU's pressure? Was there something fundamentally wrong after you saw, what was your view of the main problem with some of those turnovers?
Yeah, I think it was more like, they tried to trick us because they were playing they pressed us a little bit, and the pressure, they wasn't trying to trap us, and it was more just getting comfortable, filling out what they were doing. And, we were trying to, obviously our point guards were trying to execute the game plan, execute the sets that we run against pressure. And, like I told Seventh Woods, it's not the end of the world. It's Seventh Woods, TJ, everybody turned the ball over. You get what I'm saying? We all made mistakes. We learn from them. You take the loss and you get the lesson out of the loss, we'll be ready tomorrow. I know we will be. And having Frank back, it brought that much joy to us in practice from an execution standpoint and a confidence standpoint.
All right, we'll go one more to Mike Uva.
Bruce, I don't know if you would have the answer to this, but just because of how strange this season has been already for you guys, have you had discussions if, God forbid, this situation occurred again, would you be the interim acting head coach again?
Oh, I don't know. Frank looked back. He looked like he was back in blast and full go mode. I don't expect any, I always think about all the positives. So if that situation presents itself again, and it is what it is, I'll take advantage of it. But Frank's back, and it's my job to help him as much as possible.
And the reason I asked that is just, what did you learn just being able to have that role as a head coach the other night? And what did you think in terms of what you can do better moving forward and just being able to help this team?
Right. I learned that it's very hard. And Frank, my hat goes off to him because it's a lot. It's for the couple of days that I had the responsibility, it felt like I've been doing it for a year. That's how much was put on my plate. But it was a good experience. But it's time to move on and get back to Gamecock basketball.